Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
Oh, everybody. Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the show. Whew, beautiful day in our nation's capital. A beautiful day in Columbia, South Carolina with our flagship station, WGCV. Alex, Tony, Yolanda, Jamal, everybody at the big house in Columbia. Not Colombia, but Columbia. Want to give a shout out to our flagship affiliate, terrestrial affiliate, WGCV, 620 AM. Boy, I can't even think of how long we have been broadcasting with WGCV. Just a wonderful experience. A lot of goodies today. Jordan Goodman is one of the goodies, and Dr. Gary Barnard will be joining us for today's live broadcast. We are live today. Remember, our phone lines are always open at 1-866-620-6620 and 803-733-5620. And also, you can always email us at info@rightsidewire.com. You can go to our website at www.rightsidewire.com. You know, people say, you don't promote your show, you don't promote your people, how they can contact you. You know, and I don't. It's not something I think about. I just, I enjoy doing this show, and I don't want the radio show to become an infomercial. Jordan Goodman, how are you today?
Great to be with you, Armstrong.
You sound good today.
Well, it's an exciting time. We've never had a sequester hanging over us like this before. You make things very exciting, Armstrong, I must say.
Oh, it's good to have excitement in our lives and something to look forward to, and just something to, get people focused and not take things for granted. And it's why I'm so glad that we have you on today, Jordan, because I do want us to talk about this so-called sequester and whether or not people are overreacting and...
yeah, well, it depends if you're affected by it or not, if you're overreacting. There are going to be a lot of people affected by it, and I think it's quite clear it's going to go into effect this coming Friday.
People don't like making difficult decisions unless their backs are against the wall, and politicians and bureaucrats will not lay off employees unless they're forced, and everyone agrees that the federal government is bloated, and the only way to reduce this bloated employment is to force politicians and bureaucrats to make painful layoff decisions. So the sequestration is an effective method to start this process.
It really was President Obama's idea in the first place, back in August of 2011. Part of the deal that was made to raise the national debt ceiling at the time was, okay, so we'll raise the national debt ceiling. On January 1st, 2013, we'll have the sequester, half out of defense, half out of domestic discretionary programs, and it'll be so onerous that Congress will figure out some way so it'll never go into effect. And then what happens? We reach January 1st, 2013. They at least stopped the tax increase from going across the board, but they put a tax increase for upper-income people, but they delayed the sequester for 2 months until March 1st, which is this coming Friday. And they have not been able to come up with any solution. The two sides, Democrats and Republicans, have completely different views on how to avoid the sequester. The Republicans basically want to have more cuts out of domestic programs of various types and save the military. The Democrats want to increase taxes dramatically. We already had a tax increase on January 1st, but they want to put in the so-called Buffett rule, which would have a mandatory 30% tax on anybody earning over $1 million, take away all kinds of other tax breaks, and have fewer domestic discretionary cuts and more military cuts. So the two sides are like on different, I guess you might say, at parallel universes, Armstrong, because they're not even close to agreeing on anything. So the result of that is I think the sequester is in fact going to go into effect.
The Republicans in Congress have already lost 3 rounds of the fight for a balanced budget. In December, they agreed to raise taxes with no quid pro quo.
Right.
Later this year, they agreed to suspend the debt ceiling, and finally they delayed the sequestration until March. And so, unfortunately, as it usually the case with President Obama, the Republicans got nothing in exchange for compromising their fiscal principles. And so, in round 4, they're now being asked to eliminate the sequestration cuts, to once again sort of kick the can down the road and address this serious matter later in the year. Unfortunately, Jordan, and to the audience, the strategy, it's just of kicking the can down the road does not solve our deficit problem. In fact, it makes matters much worse, and America would be in a much better bargaining position, in my opinion. This is what I want you to respond to. If the Republicans allow the sequester cuts to occur, it's easier for elected officials to add spending than to cut spending. And after the cuts occur, let President Obama convince Americans that we need to increase the deficit. That is a much more difficult burden when the federal government has just had $4 trillion deficit and no fiscal balance in sight.
This is the first time this coming Friday that we'll have ever actually implemented any kind of fiscal restraint at all. We've had none. It's been a runaway freight train, basically, for many, many years here. So this is the first time, and the only way it gets done is through this forced, what I would call the meat axe approach. I mean, it's not, oh, we should cut this, we should not cut that. Think about it. No, it's across the board. Everybody gets hurt equally without any thought whatsoever. But that seems to be the only way we get any kind of fiscal restraint at all. And remember, this is not the only time this is happening. This is the beginning of a 10-year process. We're talking about doing this every year for 10 years going forward. A total of over $1 trillion. I think it's $1.1 trillion in cuts over the next 10 years, roughly $110 billion each year. The reason it's a little bit less than that now is we're halfway through the fiscal year. So they're having to do $85 billion between now, March 1st, and when the fiscal year ends, basically October 1st. But coming in future years, it'd be another cut. So we're going to squeeze everything possible out of the domestic discretionary budget and the defense and defense and homeland security combined as well. So I think there'll be layoffs of civilians in the Pentagon. They're going to be stopping various kinds of weapons programs. They're not going to be deploying various aircraft carrier groups and things that would have done otherwise. We'll probably pull troops back from Japan, Korea, Germany, which I think makes some sense. I mean, we did win World War II. That was 60 years ago or something. I don't know why we have so many troops in Germany and Italy and, all these places where we haven't had wars or no likelihood of them. So maybe this isn't all the worst thing to, get some of these cuts going in, because that seems to be the only way we're able to make them.
Who talk about where the real hurt is going to happen?
Well, it's going to be in domestic discretionary programs. All the government agencies are going to get hit one way or the other. The Commerce Department, Education, FDA, SEC, I mean, you name it. All these agencies are going to get cut one way or the other, slowing things down. I was at a wedding over the weekend, and one of the people there happened to be a federal government worker at the NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. And I said, how will the sequester affect you? And she said, well, we have all the satellites that do the weather. And she said, you have to do maintenance on the satellites, and we're going to have to not do as much maintenance as before, so eventually some of the satellites may not work anymore, so you wouldn't get as much accurate weather forecasting. I mean, that's just one small example of all the little nicks. You're not going to see it on March 2nd. Some of these things could really start impacting. I'll give you just a few examples. The FDA it could slow down how quickly drugs get approved. The Agriculture Department is going to have fewer food inspectors, so it might take longer for food, or food might not be as inspected as much before it gets to the grocery. The FAA may have cutbacks on air traffic controllers, so it could slow up getting planes in and out of airports. I mean, those are just some examples of small things, but these are all going to be inconveniences to people that not going to make people happy.
Talk about the fact that the president always focuses his conversation about the middle class, and I guess the reason why Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid will not be as impacted by sequestration is because of his focus on the middle class. But man, the lower class, which no one talks about, is going to get hammered in this sequestration.
Correct. All kinds of programs like women's and infants nutrition programs, health programs, education, Head Start, I mean, you name it. all those things are going to get hammered. You're correct. And you're exactly right. I mean, here we are cutting $85 billion out of all these domestic discretionary programs and the military, and you'll see the kind of things I just mentioned. But the real money is not there. It's not there at all. It's all in the entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. That's where the real money is being spent. You could wipe out all these agencies combined, and it would hardly affect the deficit at all. The deficit is all because we're spending all this money we don't have, particularly on older people is what it gets down to. I mean, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are pretty much, so there's an intergenerational transfer of wealth from the young to the old, and a lot of people, the baby boomers now getting in their retirement years, is getting all the benefits from this, and they're very politically powerful, and they want the goodies. And the people who are not as powerful, the younger ones, are in a position, not to be able to stop this. I mean, another good example is the whole healthcare situation.
Hold the healthcare. We're going to come back to it. Jordan
Goodman,
sequestration, President Obama, the Congress, the American people. We'll be back.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. Just like the Affordable Care Act seeks to ensure people with public or private coverage can find high-quality health care, AAA911health.com offers consumers you with access to better information, quality care, and big-time savings on your health care. Yes, big time. AAA911health.com offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. If AAA911health.com haven't saved you money, guess what? They will pay you back in full your membership with no questions asked. Just tell them Armstrong Williams sent you to AAA911health.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know what's fascinating, Jordan, is that no matter what happens and no matter what devastation and decimation of the economy, those who are always at the bottom rung of the ladder are going to be most impacted, more so than anyone else.
Well, they're already seeing that in other ways. For example, gas prices have been rising, and that's affecting them a lot. The payroll tax holiday, which ended January 1st, is affecting lower-income people a lot. The 2% more being taken out of their paychecks now. And now you've got the sequestration on top of that. So you're right. They were already getting hurt, and now they're getting hurt in all these other ways that are making it hard. And you're seeing that, for example, the retail sales at Walmart came in lower than expected, and Target and other retailers are seeing either fewer sales or people are trading down because their income is just a lot less. So you're actually starting to see it in the real world now.
Just do an assessment of what is the president doing. I mean, does he really understand? I just don't understand why. After he gave his mandate, he gave his word that the taxes would not be included. He just feels that he can just recklessly go back on his word.
Well, yes, he thinks that he has a mandate.
How?
He the way he saw the election.
Let's forget about a mandate. He gave his word to Boehner.
Well, he feels that the way he puts it in his mind is you have these rich people getting away with all these tax loopholes who aren't paying enough in taxes, and meanwhile you're going to be laying off policemen and firemen and first responders because of the sequester. That's the way he thinks of it in his mind. And so if you can get the rich to pay more, closing loopholes on hedge fund managers and so on, then you'll have the money to not have to lay these people off. That's the way he frames it.
But it's not even close to the truth.
I'm just telling you the way he thinks. I'm not agreeing with it, but I'm telling you the way he thinks.
You also educate our audience that is not true.
Well, I mean, what happens is, first of all, we've already raised taxes on the wealthy on January 1st, over $400,000, up to a 39.6% tax rate. We raised our capital gains rates. The wealthy are already paying a huge proportion of the taxes. 50% of the population pays no taxes whatsoever. They just receive benefits. So if you keep raising taxes on these people, they're not going to stick around to be taxed. That's what happens, or they're going to produce less work or do tax shelters or some way to get around it. So it becomes counterproductive. I mean, two recent examples would be in France. They have raised the top marginal rate to 75%. Well, the wealthy French people aren't sticking around to pay it. They're moving to other countries. Gerald Depardieu, the big actor, moved to Belgium, for example. Also in California, they recently raised the top income tax rate to 13%. So a lot of people are leaving California for Texas and Arizona and Nevada and other places. So you just can't keep raising taxes and don't think it's going to affect people's behavior.
But everybody, as Dr. Ben Carson said, should pay their proportional taxes. Yep.
Well, again, 50% of the population pay no taxes. So the burden is getting heavier and heavier on those who are the producers in society. And we might be reaching the breaking point. You just can't keep raising taxes on them, both at the state and federal level. But President Obama, that's the solution. You could wipe out all the money of the rich and still not balance the budget. The only real solution is to cut entitlements in various ways, not massively, but making some adjustments there, and getting some of the people who are now not paying taxes to pay taxes, and make the whole system fair. Lower the rates, get rid of deductions and credits, and have the middle class grow. That is the ultimate solution, which I think a lot of people agree with, but to get from here to there seems almost impossible.
How is the rest of the world, particularly Europe, looking across the miles away upon this?
Well, they've got their own problems. In Europe, they just had an election over the weekend in Italy, where it looks like Berlusconi may be coming back.
No. Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. He had a much bigger vote-getting than Monti, for example.
No.
Oh, yeah. He's just, despite all of his peccadillos and everything else, he's very popular over there.
But why?
In Italy, it's just a man's thing, I guess. They like the way he works things. I mean, Italy has always had a kind of a in and out. They have one government after another. It doesn't seem to affect things one way or the other. But I mean, they've got an austerity program that's put in by Monti before that people don't like. People don't like austerity, and they've got austerity in Spain and Greece and other places, France as well. Britain has got very tough austerity. People are not happy with it, and you're going to see reactions to that, both on the left and the right. On the right, you're seeing almost racist parties, almost neo-Nazi parties rising in various countries to push out North Africans and and Turks and so on, it's really become kind of racially tinged that way, and Muslims and so on. And on the left, they want to raise taxes even more. That's the solution to everything, or expropriate property. I mean, it's getting pretty extreme over there in Europe.
So would you say that Berlusconi is a liberal?
No, he's a conservative.
Yes, what I thought.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a conservative. The left in Italy hasn't done that well. But Monti, who was the one who was basically put in by the Germans to run Italy, to impose austerity, at first was popular, but now is not as popular. I mean, it's really hard to sell austerity as a political campaign. We're going to take away your benefits. This is not a winning, vote-getting technique usually, and so people vote for benefits, not austerity.
Just how severe are our economic woes in the United States, Jordan?
A lot less than in Europe. I mean, if you look at the overall situation, things are doing pretty well. The stock market's been doing well. Housing market's recovered. Unemployment's still high, but we have created a lot of new jobs on the private sector, not the government sector. There's a lot of innovation going on in Silicon Valley and other areas. We still have an entrepreneurial spirit here. So even though our government is all messed up and we've got this gridlock and these sequesters and one crisis after another, the private sector is doing pretty well in this country right now. We're the envy of the world.
But
Does that make you feel better?
Listen, is the housing market really turning around? Is that sheer fantasy?
Absolutely happening. Prices are up. There's a lot of flipping going on now. The current Business Week magazine I just got this week was all about we're back to the good old days. People flipping homes, buying homes on spec. Phoenix, the prices were up 23% in the latest month. Miami is very hot now. So it's almost feeling like 2005 again, as crazy as that may sound. The housing market is definitely back in most areas of the country.
What has brought the housing market back? And
Prices got very low.
And why is it that everybody's not feeling the improved housing market?
Well, there's still foreclosures going on, about 1 million foreclosures. But the inventory of new homes for sale is at a very, very low level, lowest it's been in a long time. A lot of people stayed out of the housing market and now don't want to rent and they want to buy. Interest rates are still very affordable and low, and prices are still affordable. The so-called affordability index is still at a pretty low level. So it means a lot of people can afford homes today when they would rather build equity than just pay rent all the time. I could give some specific suggestions in that area. In the mortgage area, the current 30-year fixed rate's about 4%, 3.9, something like that. So if you haven't refinanced yet, you can still do it. So if your mortgage is, I'd say, 4.5% or higher, it's still going to make sense for you to refinance. A website that can do that is youcanrefi.com, youcanrefi.com, to refinance your mortgage. Also, you can use the so-called mortgage optimization strategy, where your mortgage is tied to short-term interest rates, to the prime rate, where that's today 3.25%, and you can pay your mortgage off much more quickly than you'd ever think on your own. A website to find out more about that would be truthinequity.com, truthinequity.com. You can end up paying off your mortgage in about 5 or 6 years instead of 30 years on the same level of income. So those are two ways to take advantage of these incredibly low mortgage rates we still have today.
How do people create wealth and really put America back at the economic pinnacle of financial success, man? What is it that we, the people, are not doing enough of? Are we over-regulated? Have we become an entitlement society? Have we become a nanny state society?
Well, to some extent, yes. That is, there's still a lot of entrepreneurship going on, but there are a lot of regulations as well, which tends to stifle entrepreneurs. And about roughly half the population is dependent on the government one way or the other. But that's a lot less than in Europe and other places. Asia has much more entrepreneurship going on. If you go to Singapore or Hong Kong or Thailand, something like that, they're much more entrepreneurial than we are these days. So there's much more economic vitality and entrepreneurship going on there. But if I could give you one word as to how to create wealth, Armstrong, that word would be leverage. You've got to leverage yourself. If you're just trading your time for dollars, you only have so much time, and you just really can't leverage yourself. You can't kind of increase your wealth in any major way. If you invest in something where other people are working and you're getting benefit from it, then you can become wealthy and create wealth in many ways as well. So that, to me, is the key to creating wealth, is leverage.
Now, Jordan, we're going to have you stay with us.
Alrighty.
Because we have a very interesting topic with Dr. Barnard, who's always with us every Monday. He has this IKEA effect, which was named in honor of the highly successful Swedish manufacturer that requires assembly of products purchased. And in 2009, 3 business professors, Harvard, Yale, and Duke University, published an article in the Harvard Business Review describing results from their research of this phenomenon. And
Great.
And some of the background research for their research involved information from the 1950s when companies were coming out with instant cake mixes. What seemed like a great idea actually fizzled, and no one was interested in giving up the homemade cake. And when the new recipe required to add in an egg and butter, the instant cake mix idea became a winner, and the rest is history, as they say. That's going to be very interesting to discuss when we come back from break with our guest, Dr. Gary Barnard. But in the meantime, as we prepare to go out, how can people get more information on you?
My website is moneyanswers.com. I've got a lot of resources to help people at moneyanswers.com.
Are you answering? Are you helping people?
I do. I get emails from your listeners all the time and glad to help them, Armstrong.
We'll be back. Info at rightsidewire.com. Dr. Gary Barnard is next. I'm Armstrong Williams. We're live.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the broadcast with our guest, Dr. Gary Barnard, and Jordan Goodman remains with us. So, Gary, we were talking about your IKEA idea Tell us about your new concept.
Well, it's not my concept, but it does fit in with 2 weeks ago when we were talking about cognitive dissonance. It's a phenomenon that really is the same thing as cognitive dissonance. These three professors, one from Harvard, one from Yale, one from Duke, did some studies, and they sort of coined this term, and they published their findings in the Harvard Business Review. So it was primarily for business applications, but of course we use this for all human behavior. And it's named after the famous or the very successful Swedish manufacturer, IKEA. And it came off the concept of, having to put some work into completing a project. So you purchase something from them, but then you have to assemble it. So it requires some effort. And what they find is much like with back in the 50s when they came out with the idea of instant cake mixes, Betty Crocker, it was a big flop. And after they tweaked it a little bit, they found out that it was that people were really invested in putting in the hard work to bake this great cake for their family. And when you take that away from them, they didn't value it as much. So all they did is just say, okay, here's the mix, but you have to add an egg or two and some butter. And then you have to mix it up and still make the cake and ice it. And everybody was okay with that, so it ended up being a big hit. And we have all kinds of instant kinds of foods these days that you have to do a little bit of preparation for. So it's this interesting phenomenon that when there's a labor of love, we tend to overvalue or value that product, the end product, much more than if it was just given to us. Interesting, huh? A lot of implications to this.
Jordan?
Yes, I'm with you. Uh-huh.
Hi, Jordan.
Well, it is interesting that people want to do some work and have, you kind of get the impression that everybody wants everything for free, and they don't want to put any effort into things.
That is true, and that's why this is so interesting to me. We live in a society where we do things fast. We're a microwave society. We look for pills that make us feel better, jump higher, you name it. We want everything instantly, and yet there's still this built-in principle that when we must put effort into something, we tend to value it more. Yeah. And I think we've lost that, and that's why I brought it up today. It's the same concept. Remember when we talked about the fox and the grapes 2 weeks ago, Armstrong? Yes. Well, the notion is this cognitive dissonance. If I'm looking at those grapes and say, that's going to be delicious, I really want those, but then I put this behavior into it, and I find that, gosh, I can't reach them, or I'm having to put too much effort into it, then I might change my belief that they're just sour grapes anyway, and then that matches up with my new behavior, walking away, giving up. And so I've closed the gap on the dissonance, and now I can live with myself. Well,
one area I would say is exacerbated, exactly what you're talking about, is the computer and the video games in particular. I mean, video games, you get instant feedback. Whether you're a winner or loser, you get shot or you shoot somebody else or you crash a car, whatever it may be. And with computers, people text and email each other and expect instant responses. Everything's instant. And so the idea of doing something over a long period of time and waiting for a result is we're losing that a lot.
We are. And it's one reason we're likely reconditioning our brain to where we don't pay attention very long to anything. It all comes to us in real quick sound bites or quick bits of information, visual or other sensory information. And yeah, I think we're losing out. But I guess my point here is there's really something to be valued here. And when we talk about children, families, parenting, building any product, of which our kids are probably number one to most of us, the more effort we put into it, as long as we are perceiving that it's doing something positive, that it is perceived as a benefit, then we value not only the process, the work, but the product, the child. We value that child more. So there's really something to be said in us as parents putting in the labor, but making sure that we're doing things that can bring us good results.
So children are the ultimate long-term investment, right? Children are, you can't do them quickly, but yet children, if you've actually been around them, I mean, everything is instant with them. I mean, video games, again, I said, and texting, and everything's fast with them. So it's very hard to have these long-term growth things you're talking about when you have, they're so kind of wired to the instant at every moment.
You know,
that goes back to... Go ahead, Armstrong.
No, please go ahead.
Well, that goes back, I think, to the fundamental reality that as parents, we get to choose how to perceive this. I believe, and I think most of us do, that we can't control our kids, their choices. They will do that, but we can control their environment. And so we end up trying to become better environmental engineers. Let's take responsibility of our stuff, the things around us, and not so much the kids. And I think that's one of the big shifts in our society. Our children are indulged with all kinds of things. And I'm not saying let's go into an austerity program where we make our kids miserable and they don't have anything. That's not my point. It is that we get to regulate that. We don't get to regulate their choices. They will do that. We get to set consequences. We get to set up things that they can strive for, and in the process encourage, and then when they achieve, really lay on all of the praise and reward, natural and otherwise, that go with it, so that it's reinforced. They're more likely to do it again, and then they will value that outcome. And we have lost that. We really have, and I just think that it's something that we can regain pretty quickly without a whole lot of work, actually.
You know, here's what, and I just want to make sure our audience is understanding this. People value that in which they have skin in the game. Right, Dr. Barnard?
That's it.
That's what
you got it.
Yeah. Well, you know, ask this, why is it that this does not translate to the offspring of these parents in the classroom, that kids don't mind cheating on exams, they don't mind cheating on the SAT test, they don't mind cheating, it doesn't faze them. Whatever it takes for them to pass and to get by. They didn't earn it, it's stealing, and it seems to be a whole culture. So many kids are involved in this kind of thing and this kind of behavior today. I'm just trying to understand the disconnect.
Well, there is a basic built-in tendency for animals, people, creatures to do what they have to do to make it. And, you know, the tendency here is to take a shortcut. Now, in some ways, that is beneficial. It teaches us not to waste our energy. We can learn to conserve. Where this gets to be a more complex deal, though, is when you're talking about cheating and these values. And we've got to step in and say, yeah, you can take all kinds of shortcuts in life, but there are consequences. And yes, some people can cheat and get away with it.
But they don't get away with it.
A long period of time.
No, they don't ever get away with it. They never get away with it. They never do.
Typically, no cheater ever gets away with it ultimately, but you can delay that for some time and think that it's kind of gambler's fallacy. You think you're going to finally hit the big one if you keep trying. You think you're always going to get away with it, but you don't. So
I would disagree with that, Armstrong. I would actually disagree with that. I think lots of people get away with cheating all the time. And I'll give you one area, taxes. I think there's a huge underground economy where people are not reporting their income and overstating deductions, and they get away with it.
You're going to be shocked to hear me say this. That's a little different from the classroom. They're trying to make sure that the government that is corrupt and abusive and show no appreciation of their hard-earned money, and they know this tax system is immoral in and of itself. It's not immoral for a kid to study and learn and earn that grade in the classroom. Our tax code and our government, the taxes to me is not a moral issue. That is an issue where you change it according to lobbyists and special interest groups, and if you were to get lawyers and accountants out of it, it would be better. It's not designed to benefit most people.
Well, I guess so. It's still illegal, and a lot of people get away with it. I think a lot of people cheating knowing they're cheating.
I'm talking about moral. I'm not really talking about illegal. I'm talking about morality and ethics here.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of kids get away with cheating on tests, too. I mean, we find out about it occasionally. And there was this case out in Long Island. There's been several cases recently where there was other kids taking tests for kids, and they've kind of come back with that. Stuyvesant, the school in Manhattan, a very top school, had a rampant cheating. So I may be wrong, but I think there's a lot more cheating that's not caught than is caught.
No question. We're coming back. Dr. Gary Barnard, Joy Goodman. The phone lines are open. What are your thoughts about this conversation, what you're hearing? Give us your input. 1-866-620-6620, 803-733-5620. We'll be back.
Armstrong.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. Just like the Affordable Care Act seeks to ensure people with public or private coverage can find high-quality health care, AAA911health.com offers consumers you with access to better information, quality care, and big-time savings on your health care. Yes, big time. AAA911health.com offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. If AAA911health.com haven't saved you money, guess what? They will pay you back in full your membership with no questions asked. Just tell them Armstrong Williams sent you to AAA911health.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the broadcast, and thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Gary Barnard, Jordan Goodman, and we have a caller, Miss Paulette. Welcome to the airways. Go ahead. Miss Paulette, I know they're bringing your mic up.
How are you today, sir?
Just fine, thank you.
Good. You know, I went to some pretty good schools, even from elementary to middle school to high school. But do you know a lot of affluent people cheat because they have this, a lot of them have this drive. If I don't have to do as much to get it, I can get it this way without having to put such a great effort. I know a lot of affluent people, and a lot of times you have to separate yourself from them, because if you don't, you'll start acting like them because they already have it, but it just seems like they need that one little bit of an edge to do that, and I don't know why. And then when you have kids, my parents, they grew up on farms. They really couldn't help me a lot with homework, but they could help me with some. But I see, as growing up, I saw where going to pretty good schools, you see a lot of affluent people do that.
Dr. Barnard?
Well, I certainly can't challenge your experience. I've had that experience too with people with means, but I've had it with those that don't have means, and I see it less as whether one has means or not. I see it as, have we been held accountable to a set of principles in our living that produce values and morality and ethics that encourage healthy living, healthy, productive living. And, whether a person is required to have consequences when they cheat is a very important thing. That experience needs to be in their life. If they've cheated, there needs to be consequences for that.
Well, have you seen where people gotten off because they had more means when they have done something wrong?
Sure, yeah. Influence, money, power can always get people off.
The prime example is O.J. Simpson. Look how many times he's gotten off, and then he met a wall. He hit a wall, and finally he got it. Maybe he got it.
I agree with you. And he did get off from legal consequences that we normally expect someone who has committed a crime of that nature. He did get off, but he didn't get off from the natural consequence of the way we view that behavior. And when the whole society starts viewing someone's behavior that way, they're shunned in a pretty dramatic way, typically. And that does change some people's behavior. It doesn't change all people's behavior.
They keep doing it. I mean, I'll give you another example. We talked about tax cheats. On Wall Street, there's people cheating all the time with insider trading. I think this is even though the SEC is prosecuting it, it keeps happening. It just happened a week ago when Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, took over Heinz, the ketchup company. The day before, there was an enormous volume in options on Heinz, and
It's being investigated.
It is, but I'm just saying, people knew that this is cheating, and they went ahead and did it anyway, millions of dollars. So it just happens time after time, and the SEC goes after them afterwards. But if we have these high morals that Dr. Barnard is talking about, those people would not have cheated, up front, and they still did it anyway.
I agree with that, although there will always be those that have been even raised or reared in a society and in a family who values ethics and morality. But for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it is, it's reinforcement theory. If you can get away with something enough times, you figure the odds, your tendency, unless you do have a real strong internal guiding compass, your tendency is to keep trying until you do get caught. And if you get caught and you can get away with it, then that's been your experience. You're feeling pretty bulletproof and empowered, and many people will continue to do that. But I do think we got to go back to this requiring some effort, requiring hard work, delayed gratification, holding people accountable to these ethics as best we can. And the SEC can't go prosecute or even investigate all the different things. We just can't regulate that out of people. So we're going to have to try it a different way, I think, and that is in the way that we teach our kids to live.
Yeah, and even our leaders are not. I mean, we see one scandal after another in the political world as well. I mean, if you go into Elliot Spitzer or I mean, just all kinds of congressmen and senators have been brought down by all kinds of bribes and illegal behavior. So even our leaders, fall victim, do not have.
We've got plenty of examples of people who are teaching just the opposite of what we want to be teaching our kids. There's no doubt.
They're not practicing what they preach.
Right, and now it is so easy to just bombard the airwaves and visual media where kids are constantly seeing this. At one time, they might have heard a little bit something like that at the dinner table if someone read it in the paper, but now nobody can escape this. It's 24/7 we see this, even the programming and all the different things that we have in the video games, Grand Theft Auto. It's all about having an edge and getting away with something.
Right, exactly.
It is a cultural thing. There's no doubt about it.
I don't know. I think people can rationalize stealing and cheating and never really mentally are involve themselves in it, and they're perfectly fine with it. I mean, Jordan, just think about it. Some people can do it, and they have no conscience about it.
Well, they don't think they're going to get caught. If they knew for sure they'd get caught, I think they'd do it less or wouldn't do it. Right? I mean, these people, for example, I just mentioned, the ones I just mentioned, for example, who bought the Heinz options the day before the takeover, did it out of a Swiss bank account. And they thought that if they were hidden that way, they'd get away with it. So they knew it was wrong. They were just trying to do it in a way they wouldn't be detected.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Bill, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Thank you. You know, Congress made inside trading legal for them, and then they act like they repealed that. But I hope sequestration happens. But these Congress people, I know in 2 or 3 days they'll pat each other on the back and they'll act like they saved the country. I mean, 12 years ago the debt was $3 trillion, and let's put it on Bush and Obama. Bush said debts don't matter, and then the budget was under $2 trillion. Now it's almost $4 trillion. I mean, no wonder we're headed to where we are. All right, thanks a lot.
I want to follow up what he just said. That's the point I was making earlier to you guys about the tax system and what these lawmakers do. They pass laws to make it what is illegal for you and I to do. They pass the law to make it legal for them. Are they exempt from the law? I mean, how can you respect that law? How can you? How can you make it legal for you as a member of Congress that you can do insider trading and everything else, but it's wrong for everybody else? Come on, it's crazy.
It's just totally hypocritical. But unfortunately, the press picked up on that and found out about it and caused a big uproar. I think 60 Minutes did a piece on it, and eventually it was repealed. But the hypocrisy of it is tremendous.
It's still going on. Like the caller just said, Bill, it is still going on, the insider trading. Are you kidding me?
Well, they can be prosecuted for it now. They couldn't be before.
No, you got to read how they changed the rules. The way they changed the rules, it still gives them leeway to do many things, not all things. So they're not going to be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and this goes back to what Paulette, the first caller, was talking about, and I think it's less about affluence per se, but it's about power, and people in power get to make rules that benefit them. And unless people stand up and, in essence, rebel and say, no, I don't think so, you work for me, that's going to continue. And that's what I mean about accountability. But how do we do it? Everything is sort of reversed. If you look in a family, once kids have gotten into gaming and all the different things, they're sort of running the family. And that's what's happening now with elected officials. They're running the government. We're the government, but they're running it. We're the parents, but our kids are running it. And it's a reversal of roles, and I think we've got to stand up and find ways to start supporting each other, to speak out, use whatever power that we do have to speak truth to this elected power group and say, no, I don't think so.
This is also happening globally as well. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind recently, there's been a huge amount of cybercrime where we're being hacked by the Chinese military and the Russian mafia and just all kinds of places around the world. I mean, they don't care about all these morals that we're talking about. They'll steal whatever they can get, and they don't have to be here to do it. So this
That's right.
What you're talking about has to go on globally as well as just domestically, Dr. Barnard.
Yeah, and this is a complex thing. We're talking about like it's not all that complex maybe, but, you know, the fact is, if someone does that to us and yet then we give them billions in aid, you know, how are they supposed to get the message that we don't appreciate that kind of business? It's the same thing with children or same thing with training animals. You got to send real clear messages and stay on track and reinforce the changes that you want to shape. And we are shaping a whole different response in other countries just because of our behavior.
Listen.
We keep reinforcing and supporting it through giving money.
I don't know. I don't think much is going to change because the leadership is corrupt. I'm sorry. And I think people should be outraged at the double standard. Listen, guys, terrific show today. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks, Armstrong. Thank you.
Good to talk to you. Bye-bye.
And thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Don't speak English.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.